Hi, my name's Serena Hay. I am 38 years of age. I am a college lecturer, it's called, but I call myself a teacher at City of Glasgow College, Riverside campus, which used to be the old Nautical College. It is mostly Merchant Navy cadets that I teach, and I am going to be giving you my daily routine. So, alarm is normally set Monday to Friday at 7. Normally I kind of wake up a little bit before the alarm. Sometimes if I am feeling lively, I'll get up and about before that. If I am feeling a little bit tired, then I'll maybe kind of stay in bed a little longer. Sometimes I will check my email or social media. If it's winter and I'm really trying to push it because I really don't like getting out of bed in the winter, then I will check my work email as well, so then at least I don't feel so guilty. So I'm still doing some work. So anyway, 9 till 5 is when I'm supposed to be in. Obviously though, if you've got a class at 9, you can't just rock in at 9 and then be in time for the class, so kind of have to be in a little bit before that, until 5 normally, although some days it is a little bit later, so for example, Thursdays we have a drop-in till 6:30, and on a Wednesday I tutor till 6. But anyway, in the morning, when I get up, first thing, kettle goes on for a wee cup of tea. Coffee, not so much in the morning. Usually I go in for the shower whilst my tea is sort of cooling down. Don't really have breakfast that early in the morning, but I will sometimes bring in a banana into work because I tend to get a little bit hungry either straight after I've left the house or when I get into work. So just in case that's happened, I've got that wee banana there. Like I say, work is 9 until 5. Classes are timetabled, so I always teach maths, but at various levels. So starting from what would be National 5 at school, or standard grade, or O-level if we're really old, or older should I say, up to equivalent of second year uni. Most of the courses are 40 hours long, so they will be split into two hours each week, and they are normally over a 10-week period, but people come and go at all different times, so sometimes I'm busier than other times. Lunchtime can be 1 o'clock, normally it's 12. Normally I have lunch up in the open area up in the 5th floor. Strangely enough, there seems to be a little bit of a split up in where you have the lunch, so normally the men sit in one table and the females sit on the other table, but sometimes just to disconcert them, we sometimes join their table, but they seem to be fine with that. They don't really like to join our table though. Lunch is usually something quite simple: salad, soup, maybe crackers with some cream cheese and tomato. Nothing too exciting. Sometimes it's leftovers from the night before, something like that, that's heated up in the microwave. Hot stuff tends to be more in the winter. Occasionally I will venture to that place just over there, which is the canteen, but the food's not too great and it's a bit expensive, so normally try and avoid that unless I haven't brought anything in. The people that I've overall job satisfaction for me is really good because of the team that I work with are really, really good. So the little maths team are really, really great. Some of the other teams don't get on with each other so much, so they don't have it so good. And some people are a little bit worried right now because there's a bit of a restructure going on. But for me, that's okay because all it's going to mean is that the old team's going to get back together. So the people that I've got just now and the people that I used to work with, we're all going to come back just to be one big happy maths family. So for me, it's fine, but for other people, they're a little bit nervous of the unknown. So travelling to and from work, I should have probably mentioned that sooner. It can vary. Sometimes I get the subway, so that would be from Ibrox to Bridge Street. That's how I got in today. and then it's a 10-minute walk from Bridge Street. If it's a really nice day, and if I've got plenty of time, so like last week when I was up early due to some jet lag, I took the Nice Walk in. So the Nice Walk in is the one along the river. That takes about an hour. The not so nice walk is the one along Paisley Road West, and there's no point in doing that one. Sometimes I drive in as well. So the drive is like 15 minutes, and then I would just park across at the Gorbals. There are plenty of parking spaces over there, and one of my bosses has got a parking space that he doesn't use because he doesn't have a car. After work, if I'm not doing something party political, or if I'm not doing something for the community council, so I am secretary for one of the party branches in Govan, and I'm also secretary for Ibrox and Cessnock Community Council. So if I'm not out at one of their meetings or canvassing for whatever, or writing minutes, if I'm not doing one of those two things, then usually I'm just at home after work, watching the telly. Usually not like BBC or anything like that. It's normally just Netflix or Now TV. At the same time, I might be on social media, either as myself or as an admin for one of the pages that I admin. Gets a bit confusing because I'm an admin on about 4 pages, so sometimes I need to check who I am before I say certain things. Dinner is usually something veggie. I'm mostly veggie. Sometimes when I go out, I'm not veggie. Dinner can be curry, it can be stir fry, it could be mushroom fajitas, it could be bean chili, something like that. Either it's something that I'm making there and then, or sometimes I'll make a batch of, say, like pasta sauce or chili or curry, and then at the weekend and then freeze it. So it might be something that I've taken out of the freezer, that I've made myself at the weekend, or something that I've just made there and then. Sometimes I have a glass of wine with dinner, but usually I would save that for if I have visitors. I don't smoke. Bed is normally around 11, although sometimes it can be a little earlier. Once I get to bed, I don't usually have problems getting to sleep. So normally, because I get about 7 hours sleep, if I'm tired or lucky, then sometimes I get 8, but roughly about 7. And that's basically as far as it goes, as interesting as it gets. Thank you.
Alright, so typically I wake up around 9 or 10 in the morning. That's usually the time when I sort of hit the right clock, internal body structures, whatever, telling me, get up, get out there, do stuff. So around 9 or 10, I get up, I go into the kitchen. I usually make myself a little breakfast of yogurt and fruit. It's kind of my my go-to option. Gets me in the right headspace for the day. It's pretty light, nothing too intense. Then, once that's done, go back in here, grab my go bag, which is to say my backpack, which I every night set up to be ready to go in the morning. Take this with me, go out for a nice walk in the Kelvin Grove Park, which happens to be right next to me. That is just a great thing in the morning. Helps keep you focused, clears your head. It's generally really good for you. And it puts me in a good spot to go to class, which is usually around midday. So anywhere between 12 and 2 p.m. I have classes on any given day. And that also is a good spot to kind of afterward go get coffee, meet up with friends, just generally do the afternoon thing. I'm not much of a lunch person, necessarily. I will get it when I'm hanging out with friends, but for the most part I kind of just eat when I'm hungry. And that fits pretty well with my study schedule as well, because I like to kind of do things when my brain is telling me now's a good time. And usually those good times are focused on my primary subject, which is history. This year I spent pretty good amount of time studying the early modern world for my degree course, which is second year, by the way. Essentially looking at how, especially Western Europe, but really the whole world as well, kind of changes over 500 or so years from the Renaissance to the beginnings of, the modern world that we have now. Lots of big stuff, big trends, big movements, interesting phenomena that sort of run the gamut from, how people live in a city, how they set it up, to who goes to war with who, and how money works, and all these things that you don't really necessarily think about until they're in your face, and you're like, wow, okay, these things are pretty important. Other than history, I have two side subjects, film and TV and Celtic civilization, which are, one of them, Celtic Civ, is essentially just another history course. It's just focused on Celtic civilizations. Like early medieval Britain, Ireland, north of France, that sort of thing. Film and TV is, predictably, film and TV. My mom is a second assistant director in Hollywood, so I've got a pretty good background in that. But I found that the course itself just wasn't quite my cup of tea. It was a little bit theoretical. I think I'm more of a hands-on guy when it comes to that sort of thing. So after I've been thinking around in that school headspace, which I usually like to do in the afternoons, I make my way home, which when I come home at the end of the day, which is usually, unless there's some main event on or a society meeting for university, is usually around 7 or 8. I like it to be me time. I like to come home, make some dinner, which I don't really like to do, by the way. Cooking's not really my thing. But I'll throw together something, make sure I've got some room in the belly there. And then I come in here. My room is essentially my favorite place for chilling out, and I try to keep it that way. So when I'm in here, most of the time, unless I really need to crunch and do some work, I'm watching Netflix on my computer or playing video games. I'm a big gamer, especially on PC. Like building my own computers, like messing around with that stuff. It's pretty good fun. And then once I'm done with all that, which can usually run quite a while, I tend to clock out around 1 or 2 in the morning. Usually is about when I go to sleep. Sometimes I will just pull all-nighters because either I'm really invested in a game or a show, or I'm writing a script, which I like to do in my spare time. But for the most part, 1 or 2 kind of sets me up for it.
So a typical day for me starts out with waking up, depending on if it's a school night or party night, anywhere between 9 and 12. On a typical day, I'll probably wake up, do all the hygienic stuff, hit the shower, brush my teeth in the shower, because I'm a very lazy person. Put all my clothes on, and then it's time for breakfast. Now my breakfast is one of my largest meals during the day. I'll probably have about maybe 5 eggs with 4 pieces of bacon, a glass of milk, a glass of juice, and a bowl of cereal after that. Once I've had my big breakfast, I've got the energy I need to get started with my day. So I'll head to uni. My uni is 5 minutes away, so I tend to walk there while munching on a snack. What I study is environmental management, and that's basically, especially this first year, there's been a lot of focus on geography and basically global environmental problems like climate change, the ozone layer, things like that basically. However, there's other aspects to my course as well. We've also done construction materials, so basically a focus on sustainable development in urban areas. We've done natural resource management. We've also done law, so environmental policies and things like that, which has been, which was unexpected but very interesting. I found it. After university, me and my pal will probably hit the gym, do our workouts. They probably last for 1 hour. We'll have a great laugh during the gym because during the personal classes, the teachers there play the music very loudly. and it's a lot louder than they should be playing it, which me and my friend find quite amusing. Once I go home after the gym, it's time for dinner, and I tend to have steak with pasta and with ketchup, which most people find kind of disturbing, but I just find it delicious, to be honest. And meat prices here are a lot cheaper back in Sweden, so I tend to take advantage of that as much as possible. When we come to the evening after dinner, depending on if I have a lot of assessments or not, I'll probably get the assessments out the way. If they're out the way, I'll just dedicate all my time to acting and finding new roles and basically anything I can to just grow my acting resume. If I don't have any work and it's a Friday evening or Saturday evening, then I tend to hang out with my friends. We probably go to the pub, we probably go to the clubs, or just simply meet up and have a talk, to be honest. And once again, depending on the day, I'll go to bed anywhere between 12 and 4. It all depends on the day. I find it difficult falling asleep. It's not because of like depression or anything. It's just I'm a very energetic person. I don't require that much sleep. But I would say overall that's the typical day for me in university life.
Hi, I'm Ruben and I'm 10, and this is my school routine. I wake up around 7 a.m. and watch YouTube whilst eating my breakfast. I go downstairs and get washed and dressed into my uniform. My dad takes me to school when I get to school. I play with my friends for 10 minutes until the bell goes. My first lesson is usually spelling and handwriting. At playtime, I chat with my friends Nathan and Alex. After playtime, we do maths and decimal work. At lunchtime, I eat my packed lunch and talk to my friends. After lunch, we do some science work. At the end of the day, my dad picks me up. I come home and do homework with my mum. I have dinner, usually pasta or pizza. The rest of the night I spend on the Xbox playing Fortnite, Ark and Roblox with my friends. I go to bed around 9 o'clock.
Hi, I'm Alan Morwood. I'm 70 years old and I'm retired lawyer. So I probably get up 7:30, my alarm's set, because I've got to pick up Zara, that's my granddaughter, for school. Laura leaves about 8:20, so I'm up about 7:30 and I probably have a small bowl of cereal just to get me going. I go into the kitchen, get my cereal, switch the radio on, Radio Scotland probably just to get the news, not Radio 4. So BBC Scotland, and once I'm ready, I get the car out, go up the road and get Zara. I stay, Laura will go to work, and I'll take Zara down to school at 8:30, drop her off, and then come back here. And I'll have the rest of my breakfast, probably tea and toast, and come into the sitting room. And I'll switch the radio routine up. I like Jazz FM, so the kitchen radio has Jazz FM all the time. I have the Classic FM on in the sitting room here, and I'll read. I don't usually get a paper. I get the New European magazine paper each week, but I'll have the rest of my breakfast and look at the laptop, get some news. Then I would go and meet my brother-in-law James. He's retired as well, and he's got a passion for walking. So we do this speed walking, power walking round Strathclyde Park for about 6 miles. We usually sometimes go up to Chapel Row. So we do that for about an hour and a half, and we gather like a couple of old sweetie wives, and then back to the sports centre at the Strathclyde Park for a coffee and another blether. I don't know what we blether about. So that takes us up to about 1 o'clock or so, and he has to go because his child minding is in the afternoon. He picks up his 2 grandchildren in Lanark, where they live. So he goes up there, and I come back home for my lunch. Now, invariably, if I come home for lunch, it is a ham and cheese sandwich and a cup of real coffee with freshly ground beans that I do myself. And then so I had my lunch. In the afternoon, I could go walking, or I would get the bus with the pensioners bus pass, which is always handy. I'll go into Glasgow because the bus station, the train station is only 10 minutes walk away. So I'll go into Glasgow for some shopping. I like looking around Fop record shop or Watterson's for books, and I bought 3 books and some DVDs, and that'll be about an hour or 2 in Glasgow, and I'll come back and have my dinner. Now, I really like cooking, and I do, because I'm on my own, I find it handy to do batch cooking. So spaghetti bolognese or chili con carne. So there'll be something from the fridge, either that or fish. So I have my meal about 5 or 6 o'clock, and then the evening I would probably read mostly. I don't like watching too much television, especially before 9 o'clock, which I don't think there's much on. And I would read for quite a lot. Watch television later on for the news or Newsnight, and probably about 10:30, 11 go to bed. And there I would have a read for about half an hour. I usually have an easy reading book, and I would switch the light out about 11:30, and that would be my day.
Yeah, my name's Gareth Davis. I'm 24 years old. I currently live in Cumbernauld, and I have done for most of my life, and I work for a charity in Glasgow currently, which is sort of where most of my routine is set around. I normally wake up at around 7:30 on a typical weekday. I start work at 9:30, so this is a good time to kind of get everything done before I have to go out without rushing anything. First thing I usually do is eat breakfast. I will usually have cereal or toast, typically. If I have cereal, it'll be the Sultana brand, which is what my dad likes as well. While eating my breakfast, I'll usually be on my laptop, on websites such as Facebook, news websites. I'll be maybe replying to friends' messages on WhatsApp or Facebook, or checking work emails. After that, usually I'll get washed, I'll jump in the shower, which takes altogether, breakfast and washing takes me to around 8 o'clock, just after 8, 5 past, something like that. From there, I'll then head to work. I usually get the bus from the stop just outside my house, and I typically get the 8:15 bus, which enables me to get there on time very, very reasonably. It's not a far walk, the bus stop, so it's very close by, which is very helpful. The journey altogether on the bus from Cumbernauld to Glasgow takes about 45 minutes-ish, something like that, obviously depending on how busy it is and how many stops the bus has to make, but usually takes no more than 45 minutes. On the journey on the bus, I don't really do much beyond maybe check my phone, go on WhatsApp, go on Facebook or something like that, and just talk to my friends as we. In fact, most days it's me on my group chats on WhatsApp talking nonsense to my friends, and that normally occupies the 45-minute bus journey. After getting off at Cathedral Street in Glasgow, I'll head to the Buchanan subway station, and I'll get the subway to the west end of Glasgow. Where I'll get off at the Kelvingrove station, and from Kelvingrove station I'll walk to my work, which is about 5 minutes. And altogether, depending obviously again on when the subway arrives and how long it can take anywhere from sort of 10 to 15 minutes altogether to get from Buchanan subway station to my work in the west end at Kelvingrove. And I normally sort of typically arrive at work, I'd say around 9:20, maybe just slightly after sometimes. And once at work, I'll head into the office, and I share an office with about 6 other people. We're a very talkative and sociable bunch. I'm the youngest person in the office, but like that doesn't make any difference really. We're all very sociable and very outgoing, so it's quite a nice environment to work in. And people are always asking me if you want a cup of tea, especially the older people. There's like an older woman in the work who's always asking me if like I want a cup of tea or I want a biscuit or something like that. So they're always very friendly. So a typical day at work in the office is normally full of a lot of social interactions and a lot of sort of just chatting and asking and talking to people and things like that. So what I actually do at work, I work as a researcher. Like I said, I work as a researcher for a charity in Glasgow, and part of the international development charity. So they're focused on things like climate change, things to do with Brexit currently. Giving aid to countries in Africa and Asia and things like that. And so part of my work as a researcher involves parliamentary monitoring, and this entails following the daily activities at the Scottish and Westminster Parliaments, such as debates, First Minister's questions, committee meetings, that sort of thing, and summarising which pieces of legislation and debates are most relevant to the charity that I work for. So like I said, focus on issues such as climate change. If there's like a piece of legislation that's important to my work, to the charity that I work for, then I'll summarise what's going on at the Parliament, how it's most relevant to us, and then pass that on as a report to my bosses. So like I said, it's a sort of small summary, and I'll write up that information. I coordinate with the bosses about how this affects us and how we're going to tackle it when it comes to like lobbying politicians or getting politicians to see our side of things on political issues. These activities, the parliamentary monitoring side of things, takes up most of the morning from about 9:30 until 1 o'clock normally, so this till the start of the afternoon. And at 1 PM I usually go for lunch. Depending on the day, sometimes I'll go out for lunch, sometimes I'll make my own lunch, bring in a sandwich or soup or something like that. But if not, then I'll go out to this local cafe not far from where my work is, near Kelvingrove, which is where me and my colleagues will normally go out and have lunch together. Or occasionally, if I've got friends at the University of Glasgow nearby, and I'll maybe meet them as well for lunch if they're free at the same time. So for the lunch break usually lasts from about sort of 30 to 45 minutes, depending on sort of how busy we've been in the morning and how much we've still got to do in the rest of the afternoon. So it's quite good. You get a good time to sort of get a break from work and socialise and talk to people and sort of generally just chill out. The second half of the day, from about 1 o'clock until 5ish, typically involves writing reports about whatever is the sort of the current issue that we're working on as a group. For example, a lot of things a big issue that I've recently been working on with my team is researching on gender issues in the countries that the charity works in. So the charity works in, like I said, African and Asian countries, and right now we're currently doing a big project on gender issues in these countries, so what the situation is for women in each of the countries here. So typically what I do with that for the rest of the afternoon is I'll have to look at a diverse range of sources and compile them into a comprehensive and succinct report for each country. So there was one recently on Malawi, there was one recently on El Salvador in South America, and one recently in India as well. and I'll summarise all this information and then compile it into a report for my boss, and we then pass it on to the policy team, who are then in charge of like directing, using that information to then shape policy in the country specifically that we're looking at. And also it's all about coordinating policies as well in those countries as well. I do enjoy my work. It is very busy. A typical weekday is quite intense, Monday to Friday. But I do find it very enjoyable. That's partly because the work itself is very interesting, and also because the group, the people at the work are a good bunch. They're very helpful, they're really interesting, they're a lot of fun, and that kind of helps make it, like I said, a very productive and interesting working environment to be in. And it's definitely something, as an area I'd like to definitely stay in professionally as I stay on. As I said, work usually finishes at about 5 o'clock, and I'll leave at about 5, jump again on the subway or at Kelvin Grove, from the subway get off at Buchanan Street, then head back to the Buchanan bus station, where I'll get the same bus I got to Glasgow coming back home. And altogether that can take from anywhere between an hour to maybe an hour and 15 minutes or something like that. Usually arrive home after 6, depending, obviously it's like rush hour traffic, so town is very busy and the roads are very busy, so that can take a while sometimes. But typically I get home about 6:15, something like that. And depending on when I get home, I'll usually, I still live with my parents, so my mum might have made dinner already, or I'll usually make dinner for myself. I'm not much of a cook yet, I'm still learning, so I'm sort of still trying to improve my skills in that regard. I'll usually have something like, for instance, like last night I had a burger after I came home from work, or I'll usually have something like pasta or pizza or something like that. If it's a Friday night, then it might be slightly different in terms of where I go. I wouldn't normally come home. I might go out to socialise with my friends from university, or for some other people from work. We might stay out and go to a bar in Glasgow, in the West End usually, and we'll like sort of socialise. We'll go out, we'll have fun, that sort of thing. And I'll get home maybe slightly later than I would do on a weekday. On weeknights when I'm working, I'd usually try to go to bed for about 11:30, midnight maybe. To sort of, before I go to bed, I might watch something on Netflix. I usually try to read a book as well, so that helps me kind of doze off. Occasionally though, I've got a bad habit of staying up slightly later than I should, because that's not very good for, like, obviously if you're up every day at 7:30, you want to get a good night's sleep and make sure you're refreshed for the next day. Occasionally I'm quite bad at sort of letting bad habits develop and staying up later and sort of staying on to watch Netflix or keep on reading my book beyond a good time. But occasionally I might end up going to bed around 1 o'clock in the morning, which is something I'm trying to change, because it's not very good when you're waking up so early in the morning. So usually I try to get in around 8 hours sleep. That doesn't happen all the time, but it's definitely the best way, I think, to kind of get a good night's sleep at midnight and then wake up the next day and feel refreshed for the next day. And that usually is what happens on my daily routine from sort of beginning to end. Yeah.
My name's Sean Ann. I'm 21. And my average day usually starts around kind of 7:30. That's when I get up in the morning. About that time usually I get up, I get washed, I get myself ready to leave for work. So brush my teeth, wash my face, have a shower, get organised, that kind of thing. Usually leave the house and walk to the bus stop and get the bus into town to work, which usually takes about 20 minutes to half an hour. Then off the bus in town and walk to work in St Vincent Street. And then, so I work in investment banking, so usually what I do in the morning is I go into work, usually arrive about half an hour before my shift starts to get myself set up for the day, have something to eat, usually toast or something, so you read my emails, that type of thing. And then come my shift start, usually about 10 o'clock, I start to deal with customers' queries, and that can be a different range of things. So usually about an hour 2 hours later I get a break, which I usually go for a cigarette on with my friends, and then back to work until my lunch. Lunchtime's usually kind of average days, a Subway or my canteen, something like that. and then in the afternoon I go back and deal with the customer queries again, and that can be any range of things. It can be giving customers values of their investments, it can be selling, buying, many different things, dealing with letters that they've received and that type of thing. Part of the job obviously is I have to meet targets, and also have obviously measures that I need to implement, for example, obviously security purposes, working in banking, obviously that can be quite stringent. With that, usually I have like an average handling time of 522 settings, which obviously I have to adhere to in a month, and those targets basically make up the bonus at the end of the half year. So that's my kind of average work day. I usually finish work about 6 and then head to the bus stop, walking again to the bus stop. Again, get on the bus about half an hour later, get home, have my dinner, usually have pasta or something like that, and then after that we kind of watch Home and Away, Neighbours. Dinner's about half five usually when my mum's making it, but I have it obviously later on when I come in from work. And then what I usually do after that is I would watch The Real Housewives of Cheshire or Orange County or something like that, and then have a shower or something before I go to my bed to get organised for work for the next day. Usually go to my bed about 10:15 at night, and usually sit on my phone, read different things like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, news, that kind of thing, just to catch up on what's been happening while I've been at work and not been able to do that. And then obviously end my day and start it all over again.
Hello, my name is Christian Stevenson Edmonds. I'm 27 years old, and if I was to describe my daily routine, I would say normally I would get up approximately about 20 to 8. I'll probably roll about in my bed for about 20 minutes before I actually get up, whereupon I would rather quickly get dressed, sort myself out, brush my teeth, generally try and make myself look fairly pleasant, and then I would go up to work. That normally takes me around about half an hour to get up there. I work as an administrator for O2 at the Sky Park in Glasgow. Primarily what my role involves is liaising with engineers doing works on all 15,000 O2 sites around the country. A site being essentially a relay for your mobile phone signal, and they constantly need maintenance. So essentially what I do is I work with engineers, I schedule the work for them, I chase them up to make sure the work is done, and I will cancel works and just basically make sure that any works that they are doing is up to snuff primarily. Personally, I find the work incredibly boring. I really maybe only work for about 4 hours a day, and I have an 8-hour shift, and the rest of the time I just sort of sit around awaiting if anything important is going to happen, so there's a body there who can react to it. It's frightfully dull, and hopefully I'll be moving on from that at some point. I normally have my lunch in Sky Park. We have a communal canteen there. For example, today I had a roast chicken burger with some roast potatoes. That's a fairly typical lunch I'll have. I'll normally have 2 or 3 coffees throughout the day, and I'll finish up my work at about 5 o'clock. From then on I will wander back into town, possibly do some shopping along the way, and then come back home, whereupon I will shower and freshen up and decide what I'm going to do for the remainder of the afternoon. I'm quite a big film fan, so normally I will take in a movie. I've got a whole selection of wonderful DVDs here that I regularly watch and analyse. The last movie I watched was Tarkovsky's Stalker, which is over there and is very highly recommended. And I'll also tend to go to the gym or go for a brief run, usually about 8 or 9 o'clock. And depending how big my lunch had been that day, I may have a dinner, usually a stir fry with some meat, either beef or chicken, which I'll normally have around about 7 o'clock. After I've done my fitness, watched a film or anything else I've chosen for that day, I will then begin the process of unwinding. Normally this will involve me putting my feet up in my bed and reading a book for 20 minutes, half an hour. The last book I read was Stanislaus Solaris, The one I'm currently reading is Heart of Darkness, both come with great recommendations. And once I've read for about 20-30 minutes, I'll put my phone on mute and I will set my alarm for around about 20 to 8 the next day, and with luck go to sleep and begin the whole routine all over again.
My name's David Friel, I'm 43 years of age and I'm an airline pilot. My day usually starts around about 4 o'clock. My alarm goes off, I'm usually woken right in the middle of a very deep sleep. I take a few seconds to work out who I am and where I am, pick up my watch, and then after that head down. I've laid out everything the night before. I really don't know what I'm doing at that time in the morning otherwise, so my uniform is laid out in exactly the order that I need to get it. Pants, socks, everything ready to go. I take them and hang them up just outside the shower, and I go and stand inside and look around and think, if it's going to be like this until I'm 65, shoot me now. Then after that, after having finished my shower, brush my teeth, have a shave, pull on my uniform, and then get my bag together, making sure I've got the paperwork I need for the day, my iPad, and all the equipment that I need in my flight bag. I don't eat breakfast because my stomach's not ready, and it means I can have an extra half an hour in bed, which at that time is absolutely golden. I get outside into the car, drive into work. It takes me approximately 15 minutes. Arrive at the airport car park, park in the same car park spot every single morning, and then after that walk across towards security, which is my first social interaction of the day. I know all the security people. It makes things a little bit easier. It's something that gets very tedious when you're having to do this every single day since 9/11 due to the requirements for the anti-terrorist protocols. After that then, it's out towards the duty-free shop. Again, more interactions with the ladies that I know. Maybe say a few hellos, ask how people's families are, and then go and pick up my paper, The Guardian. After that then, I head out in towards the last security check to get to the crew room, where I meet my crew for the day, meet the first officer, get a briefing on the weather, any changes that have occurred since the last day that we flew, and check out the status of the aircraft, our flight plans, and make a decision with the cabin crew as to what the passenger load's going to be, how much fuel we're going to have to take, and any other considerations that we have. After that, I'll go meet with engineers, have a final brief on what's happening for the aircraft that day and any snags that I might have to think about, and finally then walk out towards the aircraft, meeting the fueler, confirming the fuel load, and finally taking a walk around outside of the aircraft to make sure everything's where it should be before getting on board. After that then, it's a matter of getting the aircraft ready for departure, making sure we have everybody on that we should have and their bags, preparing the aircraft, programming all the computers, and finally, one last check that everything's as it should be before we push back from the gate and taxi out and finally get airborne. Once we finally get up to the cruise level, the autopilot's in, it's time to relax a little bit, and it's finally time for me to have my breakfast. This is typically around about 7 o'clock in the morning at this point. I always have the same breakfast. As you can tell already, I'm a creature of habit. It's always porridge, which I've made myself, a coffee, and usually a croissant. After that then, bring my paper out, have a little bit of read of the paper, interact with my first officer, and we head off to wherever our destination is going to be. After I've landed then, it'll be the same process that I've just described on the ground before the initial departure to get the aircraft ready to go back again to our airport of departure. We turn the aircraft round, new passengers on board, and head off again. I'll usually eat lunch on the flight on the way back. That's getting on to around about 12 o'clock. By that point I'm really hungry, having got up so early. And by that time, maybe another read of the newspaper and chatting to my first officer. We'll then make our final descent back into the airport we're going to be landing at, and if it's going to be the end of the day then, we'll finish off making any reports that are required, having a final debrief for the cabin crew, and then getting back through security on the way to the car to go home. If it's not the last flight of the day, then the process I've just described already will be repeated maybe twice or even 4 times more. Finally then, into the car, driving home, feeling very tired, sometimes popping in to get some shopping that maybe my wife or children have asked me for to get on the way home, and then in through the house, greeting everybody and finding out how everybody else's days have gone. Socialising wise, when I'm on my work week, I can almost do no socialising because of the fact that I usually get home at maybe 5 or 6 o'clock in the evening, and I'll be getting up again at 4 o'clock the next morning to go back to work, so there's not really much opportunity. I don't drink or smoke during the week. Certainly I don't smoke at all, but I don't drink during the week because obviously that's forbidden with my flying. I will though end up doing my usual rounds of dad's taxi for all my children's activities. And finally, although I intend to get to bed at around about maybe 7 or 8 o'clock at night, I'm not really in bed much before 10 because of all the life admin that gets in the way. And it's the final chance for me and my wife to actually discuss what's been going on and maybe even talk to each other for the first time probably in the whole day. Finally, as lights go out, as I say, around about 10:30 after maybe reading a book, I close my eyes and it only seems like a few seconds again until the alarm goes off and it's 4 o'clock the next morning.
Okay, so I'm Caroline, I am 25. I would normally wake up about 4 AM on a typical working day. I would then jump straight into the shower, put my uniform on, put my makeup on. Typically I aim to leave the house for about 5 AM. So I drive to work every day. It takes me around about 27 minutes. I know that's very precise. I don't normally eat breakfast or anything like that before I leave. I normally have a protein shake on the go. Once I get to work, after I've listened to my music and kind of woke up a wee bit, it takes me about 5 minutes to walk from the staff car park to the terminal. So I am cabin crew with an airline at Glasgow Airport. So the first thing I always think about when I get to the terminal is coffee. That is my main priority. So once I meet the crew that I am working with that day, we would then go through airport security, which normally takes about 5 minutes depending whoever's in front of us. And then we would walk to the plane. We would prepare the plane before we get passengers on. We normally check in about an hour before any flights take off, so we can get everything all kind of organised. My job is very full on, very full of excitement. Not as exciting as people would imagine, but yeah, lots of social interactions, lots of interesting people you meet on a daily basis, but it is great fun. Every day is different. You don't know what the day is going to throw at you, if it's going to be an emergency or a medical emergency or just a normal working day. I don't normally have a lunch break. I'm just kind of, when I get a chance to eat, I eat. Normally we all eat together. And depending on what kind of flight we're on, either you've got someone's bum in your lunch or you get to eat it in peace. So I normally have something quite healthy. I'm quite kind of healthy, like going to the gym and stuff like that. So normally I would have something that's quick and easy because we're on the go all day. We've got to make sure everybody's happy and all that jazz. So typically I do 4 flights a day, but sometimes I can do up to 6, or on a good day I just do 2. I always land back into Glasgow at night, so normally about 4 o'clock in the afternoon I would finish. Rather than sitting in the horrible rush hour traffic, I normally go to the gym in Paisley, and I spend around about an hour and a half in there. I do predominantly weights, and that's my way of kind of chilling after quite a hectic day. I just totally zone out, don't really speak to anybody unless anybody approaches me, which isn't very often because I've got a wee bit of a resting bitch face. So I tend to just zone out, I don't kind of talk to anybody because I've done talking for the day. So like I say, I normally spend about 60 minutes, 90 minutes in there, and then I would drive home. So it takes me from the gym about 20 odd minutes to get back home. And normally when I come home, my mum's got my dinner ready. So I don't really choose what I have for dinner, it's just whatever my mum's making. which is normally quite healthy. So once I've had my dinner, I just kind of do what I've got to do. So if I'm working the next day, I always make sure that my lunches and my breakfast and all that are ready for the next day, that I've got everything all prepared, so I don't need to do anything in the morning. And also I go for a shower at night as well. I always shower twice a day. If I'm working, I'll wash my hair. If I'm not working, I wouldn't wash my hair. I would literally just get into my jammies. And then normally I'll watch something on Netflix, just for like a week and a half hour to kind of properly chill out. On a typical working day, I aim to be in bed and sleeping for about 9:30. If I'm not working the next day, because my shifts are I've no set pattern, so normally I would, on a non-working day, I would be sleeping for about 10:30. And I normally aim for about 8 hours sleep, but that doesn't always work out.
My name's Alana Crichton, I'm 27 years old. So on an average Tuesday, I usually wake up about, on a good day, anywhere between 8:30 and 9:30 in the morning. I wake up, look at my phone, usually to make sure that it is that time. Then I maybe go on Facebook or some sort of social media. Then on a good day, get up about 20 minutes after that, go through the kitchen, have some breakfast, anything along the lines of porridge or sometimes brown toast, peanut butter and cucumber, which some people knock me for, but you know, it's one of my favourites. If my dad's around, maybe have a chat with him, but usually he's at work. Probably then after that, go back to my room, watch some TV, and then after that, usually I would then maybe make my salad or something for lunch. Usually it's salad with either chickpeas, hummus, something like that. And then probably listen to some music while I get ready, jump in the shower, things like that. Maybe go back on social media a little bit. Then have a cup of tea, and if I'm on time, I'll walk to work, which usually means leaving at about 12 o'clock in the day because I start at 1 o'clock. It's about 45 minutes on a good, well actually no, that's a bad day if it's 45 minutes. If I'm on a good hike, I can do it in about 35 minutes while listening to Spotify playlists that I might have made that morning, or old Spotify playlists. Means I don't have to pay attention to my phone, I can just focus on marching to work. And then I might get to work about 1:45, maybe get 10 minutes to have a cup of tea, maybe just sit and just listen to everybody moaning about the shift that morning. So I work in a supermarket, so once I get there, sit up in the canteen, do all that, then I go down to the clock in machine, clock in, and then go down to the checkouts, where what you do is you meet the runner, that's the person that runs the shift. I'll find out where I am, it could be anywhere. At that time on a Tuesday, it's usually around about the time that the school kids are in, and which means all systems are go. You need to watch all the checkouts because there's so many of them, there's like 300 sometimes, all queuing up for self-scans. So you have to break them up, make sure that some of them go through the last 2 or 3 checkouts, and then break them up and send them through the 12 self-scan machines. Doesn't sound that complicated, but it can be when they're all teenagers. But so you break them up, get rid of them in the quickest time possible. Then after that, because I'm trained in everything, I could go to a customer service desk, I could stay on self-scan, I could go to a checkout. Most Tuesdays I usually end up on a checkout for at least the first part of my shift, and then I might cover a break on customer services. 9 times out of 10 I cover a break on the pizza counters because I'm trained there, which involves me sticking on the apron, all the garb, standing there for about 30 minutes, taking people's pizza offers, writing them down, making them to offer. And then I would say that would maybe take me up till about 5 o'clock-ish. I might have had a 15 at that point. Sometimes I get it really late, so it could be at 4:45. And then I go back to checkouts. They might need me, they might send me to customer service desk. if they do need me, it's usually empty the bins, put away returns, and that usually takes me up till about 5 o'clock. No, sorry, 6 o'clock. I'm getting my times all mixed up in my day. So 6 o'clock is usually, that's the finishing time. If I'm lucky, I clock out at 6 o'clock. Usually I have someone waiting for me to give me a lift. Sometimes I have to walk, but on this day I usually would just like wait on my dad. He finishes at 5, he waits for me, gives me a lift. So after that I'd get home, probably about 20 past 6. We'd maybe make some dinner together, or maybe not, it depends. If he's knackered, I'll just make dinner for everybody. Then I would say once that was done, maybe we'd come through here, eat it, watch some telly. It could be anything from Big Bang Theory or just something that's pre-recorded. And then by about 7 o'clock that will be done. I usually at that point would maybe go through to my room, work on some songs or scales or vocal warm-ups, because I do that as much as I can, because like, I'm a trained singer and it's just all about keeping it healthy, so I try and do that most Tuesdays. If I don't do it any other day, at least I do it on a Tuesday. And then after that, that would maybe take me about half an hour on the warm-ups, maybe work on a song. Then about 7:30, 7:45, I might go through the kitchen, do some dishes, clean up the kitchen. If I can be bothered, it depends, but usually, yeah. And then I would probably go back to my room, maybe tidy up in there a little bit, check emails, check my phone, check anything like social media wise, and then probably come back through here after all that, maybe about 8 or 9 o'clock, and watch something with my dad. Maybe sitting on my laptop, maybe actually paying attention to the television. And then after that I go through to my room about 9:30, maybe 10 o'clock, start the whole getting ready for bed, looking at my phone, probably doing things I shouldn't, so I don't have to actually go get ready for bed, and go wash my face, brush my teeth, all of which will probably take about 10-15 minutes. On an ideal night, I'm usually back in my room and not leaving until about 11 o'clock, which means that I can just stay in my bed, and even if I don't go to sleep, I'm at least ready to go to sleep. So maybe sit on social media, maybe watch Netflix, just depends. And then hopefully I'll be asleep by about 11:30, 12 o'clock at the latest.
My name's Andrew Shilliday, I'm 67. I work for John Sarah Paramaster. I've been working there for 22 years. Should have retired 2 years ago, but my job's that easy that I'll just keep going until about another year. I've got my mortgage paid off, various things like that. My working day starts at, I get up at 6:30 in the morning, leave for work around about 10 to 7. My wife makes my breakfast for me. Before I get up, I maybe have rolled sausage or something like that before I go to my work in the morning. I live into Glasgow the majority of the times into the city centre. My work consists of, it's a textile rental company. We deliver mats, overalls on a rental basis to various factories in the city centre. I finish my work round about 4:30, 5 o'clock, come in, get my dinner. My wife comes in for work round about 6 o'clock, and then we sit and we watch the television, maybe watch, well, she likes to watch Love Island and all that, so she'll watch that. And I like to watch football, so I usually tape that and then I watch it later on at night. Maybe go to our bedroom about 10 o'clock, and that's about it.
My name is Victoria Harvey and I'm 27 years old. So on a typical day, I am a 27-year-old that cannot get myself up in the morning. So I normally wake up, I should wake up at 7, I normally wake up at 8:15, jump in the shower and go out the house. I don't eat breakfast in the morning because I'm just so unorganised. I work at the Callanish Visitor Centre, so that is in the Isle of Lewis, in the Art Hebrides, and it's a total dream job. I work in project management in tourism, and my role there, I've messed up already, I'm really sorry. Yeah, I'll just keep going. So yes, I work in project management, and I've been in that role for a year. In the morning it takes me about 30-40 minutes to drive to work. Although it does feel like an annoying commute, it's nothing compared to what I would have been going through when I was living here. I was very much, you'll never see people on the road now in the Isle of Lewis, but there's also plenty of sheep, so it's very good. So it takes me about 30 to 40 minutes in the morning, and then after that I get started for the day. So my job involves me planning or developing a visitor centre extension for the Callanish Standing Stones. I work in a team of 2 people, and we are specialising in constructing basically a new visitor centre. It's a £5 million project overall, and we are trying to address capacity issues but actually interpret these iconic standing stones much better, and the landscape that surrounds it. So yes, I've been in that job for a year, and that's how my typical week is built up doing this job. I work from Monday to Friday 9 to 5, and yeah, and it's always very busy and always very varied. So after a typical morning, I have to clear up my inbox, try and climb my way through it, and then get started for the day. So for example, at the moment I'm doing community consultation, so that we can understand what our community needs this visitor centre to look like. So a lot of it's been writing surveys, speaking to people. So a lot of it is speaking to local businesses, speaking to local people, stakeholders and things like that, and getting an understanding of what they need. So that normally takes up most of my day, but I try and get all that done in the morning, and then try and go for a nice settled lunch about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and this is finally where I'll eat for the day, so that's always very welcome. So I'm on a very unfun diet just now, where I've cut out sugar and carbohydrates, and so a typical day for me is eating a lot of vegetables and a tiny wee bit of meat, and it's just very sad. However, lunch is lunch and it's very good. And yeah, so once that's done, I go back to work afterwards. I work in an office with 2 other organisations, so we all kind of sit together, have quite a nice day, and we all catch up. We all work in economic development within our area and community development. So it's actually a really nice kind of networking situation where we can actually talk through what we're up to, socialise, because it is quite a small team I work in, so actually having other people to speak to is really nice. And yeah, so that's a typical lunch for me. After that, I try and find something else to do in the afternoon, so it kind of varies quite a lot, just due to the fact that it is project management. It does change all the time, so I try and schedule in about 15 minutes every day for social media. So I run all the marketing accounts for the Callanish Visitor Centre, and just getting a kind of making sure that we've got a really good engaged audience, and it's just making sure they've got a bit of a feel for what's going on in Callanish. And especially around updating them on our really exciting project as well. So in the evening after that, in the afternoon, it's normally again a total mix of things. So I'm trying to think what else. So maybe it's scheduling meetings, going to meetings. Trying to think what else I got up to now. Yeah, so just a lot of stuff. A lot of it is developing things. So recently as well, I've been writing an education strategy, so a lot of that's been again consultation, and then actually putting it into action so that we can have a visitor centre that delivers learning for the Isle of Lewis. Yeah, so it's a really interesting day. Some typical days as well involve commuting to Stornoway, which is where I live, and yeah, and having a lot of meetings there. It is very much a kind of town where everyone works and lives, and then living and working in the outskirts is actually quite difficult. You do end up commuting quite a lot. So yeah, so that's a typical day for me. It takes me right up to 5 o'clock. Often it takes me to 6 to 7, but it's absolutely worth it. And then yeah, I continue back home for the day. So on a really sunny day, we've had some really gorgeous weather recently in the Hebrides, and it's been absolutely lovely. So what we've managed to do is our office is 5 minutes away from this really stunning beach called Dalbeg, and it's really nice to kind of climb the cliff there and stand it after work, and it kind of chills you out a wee bit. So it's one of the most compelling reasons for moving to the Outer Hebrides from Cumbernauld, is that on my way home I kind of nip in and do beachy things on the way home from work. So that is a typical sunny day for me. I'll go for a wee walk afterwards and then jump back in the car and then head home, so that's another 30 minutes to get back home again. And then in the evening, I live in Stornoway. I live in a house share with 8 other people, so it's very cost effective and very busy. So it's not the dream situation, but it's the one I'm in. And yes, so a typical day is kind of starting cooking. Again, difficult to do when you live in a house with so many people, and I make a lovely dinner with no carbs and no sugar, again very sad, and then just eat and then retreat to my room for the evening. Depending on what I get up to afterwards, sometimes I don't make it back into my bedroom for the day until about 9 o'clock at night. Loads of people come in and we all chat together as well, so it's it does take a lot of time. So that's that, and then come back and just try and tidy up a wee bit. I'm a very messy individual, and just watch a wee bit of TV. We are unfortunately in the height of summer, and I'm really addicted to Love Island. So that's been a really big part of my weekly routine at the moment. I think although it's very trashy TV, it's very, very trashy, it's made to be addictive, and I think I'm definitely addicted. So that's been really good. It's added a lot of structure to my life as well. But if I'm not doing that, probably I love a good true crime documentary, so that probably takes up a lot of time. I've got a really lovely speaker in my room, so listen to podcasts and things as well. And yes, that's a typical day. And then I try and go to bed at 11. I'll probably stay up till 1:30, and then curse myself the next morning for being really tired. So that is a typical day for me.
My name's Alan, I'm 38 and I'm an offshore worker. Job title is a CRI operative, which stands for Cuttings Re-Injection. Basically what we do is we take all the formation that gets drilled and we dispose of it in an environmental way. The rig that I'm on, the Scott platform, we work 6 to 6, so I'll get up typically about 2:30 in the morning, go to the gym, spend about an hour in the gym, then it gives me about an hour to get ready, go down the stairs, and I will sit and talk to my wife on the phone or through WhatsApp Messenger, and I basically wait until 5:15 when the galley opens, and that's where we go for breakfast. So because I'm a bit of a gym buddy, I'll eat a lot of eggs as we do, and at 5:30 we go down the stairs to get ready, and the platform I'm on has 2 platforms, so I have to walk over a bridge to get over to the drilling package. So usually give ourselves about half an hour to get ready, walk over the bridge, and we have a meeting every morning at 6 o'clock. After 6 o'clock we're basically told what our duties are for the day. If we're drilling, we need to do a handover with our back-to-backs, so the boys that have been on night shift, we'll go down and hand over with them about 2:15, and we'll just send the supervisor to the meeting. And what we do is we will be standing at the CRI unit, and what typically happens is there's 2 tanks on our unit, so we get all the drilling waste, as they call it, falls into one of our tanks, and we grind it up and mix it into what they call a slurry. It's like a paste, and then we transfer it over to classify it over what they call a shaker. It goes through a screen a bit like a sieve when you're making a cup of tea, and this falls into the fines tank. So once you've got your slurry classified to the spec that you need it, you then send it to the cementer, who will use his cement unit to pump it down the hole. And what CRI typically entails is you're injecting drilling waste back into the formation that it's come from. It's a little bit like fracking, but it's a wee bit more simpler than that. So we'll work all the way through the morning up to lunchtime, and usually if there's 2 years or 3 years on shift, you'll get a break every half an hour or every 40 minutes, so you go for a cup of tea. That'll take you up to about 12:30, where you go for your lunch. So depending on what supervisor you have, depends on whether you get half an hour or an hour for your lunch. And when you come back, you're just doing the same again, all the way through to 5:45, when hopefully your night shift boys are out nice and sharp to swap you out. And then that's you going over the road for your dinner. So once you've had your dinner, you're basically on your own time. Now I generally just sit and talk on the phone with the missus, or go on the computer as everybody does, buying rubbish on eBay and stuff like that. And then you go to your room, 7 o'clock, 7:30, watch a couple of movies, and just basically lie in your bed waiting for the next day to start.
Hi, my name's Gwen McIntyre. I'm a senior nurse who works for Care of the Elderly Directorate in an acute hospital. I routinely set my alarm on a workday to 5:20 am. Sometimes I get up at that time, other times I snooze on for 10 minutes to 5:30, and then I go straight into my gym clothes. I usually have my gear packed the night before along with food and drink etc. that I'm going to bring into work, and I head straight to the gym. I usually get there about 6 am, and at that point in time I'll do a routine for about 30 to 40 minutes before having a shower at the gym and getting dressed in civvies and then coming into the work. We're usually here for between 7 and past. I'll then get into uniform and start looking at the emails for the day and at the overnight reports. I'm always keen to know what's happened overnight and what we're addressing first thing in the morning. At that point I usually break out my breakfast because I'll be quite hungry. It's usually fruit and yoghurt, or I'll have some, cold cuts and cheeses. My team come in just between sort of 8 o'clock and 15:15 for a safety huddle, and we'll then spend sort of 10-15 minutes discussing what's happened overnight and the plan moving forward for the day with regards to their staffing and any safety concerns we've got. We then go into what we call the Hair Miners Onion, and at that point it's a larger group from all of the hospital that's invited, and we discuss staffing, bed flow and any safety aspects, and that usually finishes about 8:30 to 9:15. The senior managers, including myself, would stay in the boardroom at that point in time while the staff go back to the wards, and we would then have a debrief of the previous day's on call. So if that's myself, like yesterday, I was then able to explain this morning any key points that had happened and any safety aspects to take forward. Usually I've got a cup of coffee at this point in time as well, just to keep you going. We spend maybe about 15 minutes most days just doing a debrief. So usually by 9 o'clock, 9:10, I'm out of the boardroom and I'm ready to start my other activities. It's usually directed by what's happened overnight and what the teams are needing from me, so I'll prioritise what they require for support before anything else that's actually in my diary. Diary events such as today, I've been in HR meetings, sickness absence meetings, along with having a plan of different reviews and bigger pieces of work that I need to challenge myself with to get finished. Quite often I'll try and have a snack about 10:30, 11 o'clock and another cup of coffee, and that just keeps me going through till after lunchtime. The day is really variable, so you can have a lot of things in your diary. Quite often I can be off site. I've got a ward down in Stonehouse, so again that can take up a good chunk of your day to spend time with the staff, but also to have your travel time. It's a good half hour, 40 minutes down there and back, depending on what's going on the roads. I'm usually here till about 5 o'clock, if not slightly later at night, and when I leave I like to de-stress, so I'll get into the car and I'll put some music on, and I'll drive usually over to the shops if I need to pick up something for dinner for myself and my fiancé. When I get home, the first thing I do is take the dog out because she'll be crying, looking for attention, and it's usually sort of 10-15 minutes at a gentle walk because she's getting a bit older now. I'll then prepare dinner, which can be healthy at the moment mostly, so it can be stir fries, salads, etc. Do a lot of home cooking. By the time we sit down to dinner, it can be 7:30, 8 o'clock at night, so it's always a bit of a shock when you're finally sat down, you put the recliner out on the couch and you think it's after 8 o'clock, you've had your dinner, dishes are done, but the routine then starts again of packing the gym bag, putting the washing on, possibly watching a couple of downloaded programmes. Almost don't watch normal TV anymore just because the work pattern, it can be very variable, and you don't want to miss things, so we do an awful lot of download from Sky or from Netflix. Usually about 9 o'clock, 9:30, I start to get a wee bit tired and I start thinking about what amount of sleep I'm going to have when I'm setting the alarm for 5:20 again. So I like to try and be in bed and teeth brushed and all set up ready for the next morning. But I don't just go to sleep. I don't tend to read a lot when I'm on work week. It's usually on holidays, but I do tend to scroll through the iPad or onto Facebook, social media, Twitter, trying to catch up with all the other aspects that are going on professionally and personally. I usually am asleep by 10:30 though, and that's usually my work routine. ended.
Hi, my name's Scott Hegarty and I'm 30 years old. I usually wake up about 7, half 7 in the morning. I'll go up to the toilet, wash my face, brush my teeth. Then I'll go and prepare breakfast for my wife and my son and myself. Usually my son will have toast, I'll have porridge. My wife usually has porridge as well. Then I'll go downstairs again and wake them up. That's usually about half 7, 8 o'clock. Get my son up the stairs, we'll have breakfast together. I'll go and get ready for work, get my son ready for his day. And then I usually leave about half 8. I usually take a packed lunch as well with me, usually some sandwiches with roast beef. Leave work, I work in Eurocentral in Motherwell, so I drive there and I usually leave about half 8 as I say, because I start at 9:30. My job role is a support worker. I work with people in the local community, mostly males who have special needs, epilepsy, learning difficulties. So when I go to work, I'll get my roster for the day, and have a look through and see what the clients want to do that day. I'll also look at their care plans to see any risks that may factor into what those individuals are wanting to do. After that, it's usually about 10 in the morning, I'll jump back in the car and I'll go back through to Cumbernauld to start my shift. There's 4 people I take care of. Usually I spend at least 2 hours a day with them. And what we'll do is we'll get them ready, we'll get them all set up for their day out. Some of the guys like to go play pool at the local pub, some guys like to go for lunch, and some others like to just go for a walk. It's just totally dependent on how they're feeling that day, and sometimes as well I'll just sit in with them. Once we've had them out and we go back, we fill in a time sheet for me obviously, so I get paid, and also we will just spend some time sitting down with them, asking them about the rest of their day. Then that takes pretty much up to about 4 o'clock. I'll jump back in the car and I'll drive back through to Eurocentral, and then we'll have a staff meeting. So there's 3 people, including myself, that take care of these individuals. We'll have a staff meeting about what we want to do for the following week with them, anything we need to change in regards to how they go out, where they go. That usually takes me up to about 4:30, where I leave work and I drive back home to Cumbernauld. After that I come in, it's about 5 o'clock, I'll come in and I'll chill out for 5-10 minutes, I'll have a drink of juice, catch up with the news. Then I'll pop in and make dinner. Most nights it's curry, some nights we have steak and potatoes, just normal things really. We'll sit down, we always make sure we sit down at the dining table and have dinner. It's a good way to catch up. After dinner, that takes us to about maybe 6 o'clock, 6:30, we'll take our son up to the park, the local park, and that gets him out and gets him some fresh air. We'll come back maybe about 7, 7:30 at night, and I'll run my son a bath and play about with him in the bath, give him a wash. That takes us up to 8 o'clock, where I'll get him ready for bed, and then play about with him maybe for an hour, half an hour, and that'll take us up to 8:30, 9 o'clock, where we give him a wee supper, usually a bottle of milk for him because he's coming up for 2, and I'll take him down to his bed, let him watch some videos on YouTube, usually Peppa Pig, reading him a story, and he's usually sleeping for 9:30 at latest. After that I come back up the stairs and I get to spend some time with my wife. We'll just have a wee chat about our days, maybe watch a movie on Netflix. I'll also just play about with my iPad, play a couple of games on it. My wife usually goes to bed earlier than me. She goes to bed about 10:30. I like to stay up for a wee bit, play some FIFA and listen to some podcasts. That will take me up to maybe about 11, and I'll go make myself another snack, usually a pot noodle, and then after that I'll go down to the toilet, brush my teeth and prepare myself for bed, get undressed, and then I'll go down to my bed and go to sleep for roughly about 11:45 at night.
My name's Lorraine Mackay. I'm 59 years of age and I'll be 60 this October. I always set my clock in the morning for 8 o'clock, but I wake up before then, and that would usually be between about 6:15 and 6:30. And that's the time for the Today programme to start at 7 AM in the radio, and I listen to it every morning to find out what's happening in the world. Although I've set the clock, I always get up before it. It's just to make sure that I don't sleep in. The first thing that I do whenever I get up out of my bed in the morning is put the button in on the kettle, and while it's boiling away there I always go and have my shower, and I'm always ready between 9 and 9:30 to face the world. I've got a cat, so it always gets fed before me, and then I'll usually have a bit of breakfast. I volunteer at the local pensioners club in Castlemilk, which is maybe about a mile and a half away from here, and I drive up there and always get parked in their car park outside. I help in the kitchens there. The majority of the people that are there are volunteers. I think there's only 5 paid members of staff, and usually in a midweek day they can have up to 100 people there for lunch, so there's quite a lot of dishes to be done. So that keeps me going up until about 2:30, and then whenever I'm finished there, if I've got any shopping to do or anything like that, I'll go and get that done then, and then back down the road home. I get my lunch up at the pensioners club, so I don't have to do that whenever I come home, and I usually just get myself a coffee or whatever whenever I come back. I enjoy the garden, so with the weather being good and during the summer, I'll spend a fair amount of time out there. That keeps me amused, and thereafter it's just usually a quiet evening unless I've made arrangements to go out with pals. I don't normally go out during the week. I still treat it as if it's a school day, which is a bit daft considering that I don't work, but I think that over the years certain things get ingrained into your head and you still always stick to them. So I usually have my dinner about 5:30 and make that myself, and unless I'm going out to meet friends, I'll always eat on my own, so I can suit myself as to what I'm having, get my dishes all cleared away, and that's me for the evening. If it's still a nice night, back out into the garden, failing that, a bit of television. I'm a keen reader, and if the telly's rubbish it can go off. I love the radio, and I would put the radio on, usually Radio 4 if there's a play or something like that. As I listen to this, I sound as if I've got the most boring life in the world ever. I've actually kind of settled into it now. I usually watch the news at 10 o'clock, and after that I go to my bed, usually between about 10:30, 11:15. I'm not a late bedder. And over the piece I've kept this routine. I'm still always waking at just after 6 in the morning and usually in my bed for about 10:30. And that's really just my day. Not very exciting though, is it?
My name's Colin Stelquich. I'm 62 years of age and I'm head wine waiter at the Mediterranean restaurant in Ingram Street. My general man wakes me up about 8 o'clock in the morning, showered, ready, always have breakfast every morning, cereal, toast, marmalade, tea. Then I just generally look out my uniform for that day, always make sure I'm well dressed and ready to go to work. I start my working day around about 11:30 in the morning, and roughly as soon as I arrive I check in, I put my code in to start my day. Then I check the bookings and then I find out how many's booked that day so that I'm well organised. I check the bar to see if the bar's all ready during the day, and also the outside terrace, because generally when the weather's been good we have a good business that goes outside. So I'm in charge of the outside terrace, also the main restaurant, Champagne Bar. That entails, like ordering and all sorts of other amenities. But generally my day I have wine that gets delivered from the company that we use, so always make sure we have enough stock from day-to-day use and go through. Generally the day starts at 12 o'clock for lunches, and we head right through the day up until about 3 o'clock, and then you actually organise the rest of your staff for breaks, and when they come back they go for lunch. They come back maybe an hour later, but I always have my lunch later on, so I kind of suit myself when I want to eat later on during the day, so that we tend to just answer the phone, so your day's very, very busy all day. There's always something to do, like checking coffees, there's enough coffee for the rest of the week, and you do your orders. Generally the rest of my day is just combined with answering the phone and then looking after the clientele that we have. I mean, it is a big restaurant, it seats about 200, and we find that we're busy most days, which we're very fortunate. Weekends we're always very, very busy, but during that day-to-day practice, you're just to oversee that everything's properly arranged for the customers and even your own staff. With the bosses, they always come in and they just ask you, how the day's going for you, and I'm trying to always look after the business as if it was your own. Mostly we have a long day, and then we start the evening trade from 5 o'clock onwards, and that can take us right up to being busy right up to just before 10 o'clock in the evening. So you're fairly busy right through. There's always something to do, like between the Champagne Bar or the main dining room. Then by the time 10 o'clock comes, we bring the outside terrace in and we arrange it around the Champagne Bar, because we have the outside licence that finishes at 5 to 10. So that more or less takes a bit of your time. That's about half an hour trying to bring the whole terrace in from outside. So that's another part of your duties. It takes most of your time at night. Then roughly you're thinking about getting finished round about the 10:30 mark, 11:15. Then getting changed again about 11:15. Find myself going to get my own way home. I get the bus. So generally my bus is about 11:15. By the time that heads home, I'm in my home for about 20 to 12 at night. Then that's me just winding down, come in, have a quick shower, get changed, and then I sit down, maybe have some tea, toast, have a wee chat with my wife, and then think about heading up to bed, because you have another busy day the next day, which starts the whole agenda again. So roughly I would say by the time you go to bed, you're wound down, you're looking about 1:30 in the morning. So, and you find that your next morning you're back up again, more or less the same scenario, the same sort of getting through the day, but have a good job, it's interesting, you meet a lot of really nice people, and that's basically my day-to-day running my life.
So my name is Craig Fitzsimons. I'm a second mate on car ferries with Stena Line. At the moment I'm covering the chief mate's roster, so I'll take you through a day as chief mate. So starting I get a call from the second mate on nights, approximately half an hour before we reach the Kish Lighthouse approaching Dublin. This gives me time to get showered, get changed, and I just head right up the stairs then. It's only a couple of doors away, so I don't get any breakfast, I just go up the bridge straight away. Once I'm on the bridge, I'll take the con, well the captain takes the con and I'll take over the checklist. So as we approach our berth. We have to go through pilotage waters and a narrow channel through Dublin. So the checklist just pretty much describes what's going to happen, what needs to be started, such as the thrusters and reporting points into the VTS and whatnot. So we go through that, and as we approach the berth, I'm just double checking everything the captain does, making sure we're within the line, we're in the right position. Then as we go into the swing and turn into Dublin to get into our berth, I'll be on the comms, so I'll tell them when to open the bow door, when to open the stern door, then we'll tie up. As we get closer to position, I'll read out the distances, so the moon stations forward and aft know how far off we are. Then once we get in position, I'll tell them to lower the ramp. We'll start filling the book, contact shoreside, and once the engines are stopped, the ramp's landed, I then let the car decks know it's clear to discharge, so then we start getting rid of all the traffic and getting rid of the trailers. At that point then I'll go down and have my breakfast. Normally I just have some porridge. The second mate on nights will come up and give me the load list. I do that load in the morning, the first one. Normally it's pretty quiet, sometimes it can be a bit busy. And depending on how busy it is when I head back down to the car deck. But normally I'll have the chance to do 15 minutes, maybe I'll do a bit of paperwork or just look at the plant maintenance system or answer some emails if I get the chance. Then I'll go down to the car deck and I'll start the load. So normally I just take the cars, Arctics drops down on deck 3, and get it on. As the loading officer for that load, I have to relay between the bosun on deck 5 as well. Between the two of us we load the whole ship and all 4 decks. And basically it's just making sure we get the ship properly loaded and everything's upright and the ship's trimmed correctly. Once that's done, we try and close up that bit earlier just to save fuel, so it's quite a rush just to get everything on at the end. Once everything's on, we run up to the mooring stations. I'll close the bow door and the bow visor and I have to contact the bridge, and then they confirm the bow door and visor's closed. Get all the car deck fans off, turn the timers off, turn the healing system off and head down aft. We then let go of the ship. Sometimes I make it down for time for let go, depending on how pressed we are for time. They might let go before I get there. But the mooring gang's aft anyway. I go down aft, and as we back out into the river in Dublin, I'll give the distances and tell them if they're swinging clear. We swing out and then we start heading down the river. I'll then leave the car deck, make my way up to deck 7, checking deck 5. And deck 7, checking all the cargo's stowed correctly, everything's lashed, and all the doors are locked at the entrance to the car deck so the passengers can't get down. Once I've done that, I'll go up to the bridge, I'll notify them of any positions of any dangerous goods we might be carrying, and then I'll take the checklist off of the night master, who then returns to his bed, and me and the captain will then go out of Dublin in the pilotage waters, and again it's the same thing, working with the checklists, making sure the reporting points are done and heading out. Once we get to the Kish Lighthouse and we're full away on passage, the captain hands the con over to me and I take control of the ship as she crosses from Dublin to Holyhead. So normally in this passage I'll check the radios, I'll fill out the logbook with the ballast tank positions. Quite often now I'll write in the diary of any jobs that have been done previously, any jobs that are looking to get done. I normally confer with the bosun to see what work's getting done today, whether it's just normal maintenance, if we're painting somewhere, or if there's specific prep or anything to be done. Or there might be special jobs of the day such as launching lifeboats or fast rescue boats. So on the way across, it's normally pretty quiet, there's not too much traffic, if there is we'll avoid it. And as we approach Holyhead, I'll give the shout to the master and the bosun 10 minutes before we get there. That gives them bosun time to clear the anchors, the master wanders up. He then takes the con off me and we approach Holyhead. Again I'll go into the checklist, make sure everything's started, all the reporting points are done, and we'll go into the Holyhead swing and back in. Much the same as into Dublin, I'll do the comms and I'll shout out the distances to the mooring parties as we come back. Once we're in Holyhead, tied up, we'll lower the ramp, discharge everything, and it's the same again, just getting everything loaded. Difference is this time it will be the second mate or the third mate doing the load down on deck 3 and the bosun again on deck 5. Quite often once we're in, we're tied up, everything's discharged, I'll run down, I'll grab my lunch quickly as they're still discharging, and once I've had my lunch, I'll put on my high vis and my helmet and I'll run down and relieve the second mate in the car deck so he can up and get his lunch. Sometimes we can't do this depending on, there were some interviews last week I had to attend, or there could be a lifeboat to launch or a fast rescue boat, in which case I can't make it. But I always try and make it down so the guy can get a hot lunch. He runs up, I'll stay in the car deck, I'll check the load, I'll watch the positions of DGs as they come in. Mostly it's just a security thing as well to make sure someone's at the stern door. So no intruders get on. If anyone does come on, I can check their badges and sign them in and whatnot. Once that's done, second mate comes back down, he relieves me. I'll then prep the bridge for departure. Maybe have a couple of minutes to do a bit more paperwork. Prep the bridge, I'll check the gear, I'll get the ship stability set up. And then mostly it's keeping an eye on what's left cargo wise to come on. As I say, it's a bit of a rush, we want to leave early. So constantly watching what's in the patch, listening to the shore radio, see what's left, how long we're looking at, then I inform the port when we're approximately 15 minutes prior to departure. Once I've done that, it's a mad rush at the end, you'll get the figures, you'll fire it on the stability computer, you'll get the drafts, you'll inform everyone. Get everyone to stations, close the stern ramp, confirm everything's green, all the fans are off, helium pumps off, and then we're ready to go. Again, the captain will grab the con, he'll take it out, I'll just eyeball what he's doing, make sure we get out safely. Then we come out and round the breakwater, I'll monitor the checklist, I'll speak to the port, let them know what figures we have on board. As we turn round the breakwater we get away. Quite often I'll do a compass error on the ship's gyro compass. And then once we reach the South Stack Lighthouse at Holyhead, we will fill away in passage. The second mate comes up and he takes the con. This watch is generally a watch that I would have off, which gives you about 2 hours, 20 minutes to get some stuff done. So you can take it off and then work that a little bit later. Quite often I'll just work through this watch. Whether I can do anything really. A lot of it's answering emails, or it could be doing stores orders, stuff like that, to make sure the ship's paint supplies, any deck stores are all upkept, and then the ship's looking well. Quite often do rounds in this one as well. Any bits and bobs really I can get done in this one. And then as we approach Dublin, 10 minutes before we get to the Kish Lighthouse again, the second mate will call me. I'll run up to the bridge and we'll do the pilot into Dublin once again with the checklist. Master has the con. Then once we get to Dublin again, we'll tie up, I'll run down and grab some dinner, and depending on what day it is, we could be doing a lifeboat after dinner with the night gang of ABs and bosun, but that's only the one day, so normally I'll have my dinner, I'll sit down and maybe get a cup of tea. Dinner's dependent entirely on what sort of day it is really. It's Fish Friday or it's Curry Saturday, roast dinner Sunday, so you can get used to it. And once we've had dinner, run down to the car deck, I'll check the load coming back, make sure everything's alright. The second mate's quite happy. Then it's a chance for the second mate to do PMs as well, so I can either give him a hand or I can carry on with some of my own stuff. Generally do the stores order. I normally try and finish up about 7 o'clock at night, so that would be approximately 14 hours after I started, depending on what sort of time we're on. If we are running late, I can end up finishing later because we don't have a second mate to relieve us. But generally I'll finish about 7 o'clock at night and we'd be starting approximately 5 to 5 in the morning. So once I'm finished up, I'll try and get a cup of decaf tea, and then sit in the TV lounge for a bit. Sometimes there's guys in there, sometimes there's not. Then have a bit of conversation. There's not really much else to do, I'm afraid. Sometimes I go to the gym, very rarely. And after I've done that, I head to my bed, maybe read my book for a while, text my girlfriend, and probably go to sleep around about 9 o'clock-ish. 20 to 9 we leave Dublin, so maybe at 9 o'clock, yeah, fall asleep.
I'm Stephanie Griffin and I'm 31. I get up about 7 o'clock in the morning and have a shower, have some breakfast really quickly, and then get my 2 daughters up, who are 1 and 2. I then drive to Croy train station and get the train to Glasgow. It takes about 12 minutes. I'm usually at Queen Street Station for just after 8, and then depending on how lazy I feel, I either walk to Bath Street or get the train to Charing Cross. I start work at 8:30 in the morning, and my first task is usually checking my voicemails. I haven't been doing my current job for very long, so every day is really different just now, settling into the job and getting to know the people that I'm working with is a big part of my job just now. The morning I answer emails and return phone calls and messages that have been left for me from the previous day. I usually take a break about 11 o'clock for a cup of tea before we have a team meeting. We have a team meeting every Wednesday. That starts about 11:30. Usually lasts for about an hour and a half, and is a planning meeting going forward for the next week, but also sort of longer term projects we're working on. One of the projects I'm working on just now is a councillors conference, which will include councillors from all over Scotland and trade unions and other interested parties. And that really just involves, booking venues and going to see venues, and we're really just at the beginning stages of that just now. After my team meeting, it's usually lunchtime, and I'll go and buy a lentil soup at the cafe round the corner and a dry roll. And I eat my lunch at my desk, which we're encouraged not to do, but I feel like I've got too much on not to, so that's normally what I'll do. In the afternoon, I usually work on materials for councillors, newsletters and leaflets, and things surrounding particular campaigns in local areas. And aside from that, work on localising the 2017 general election manifesto for local councils to be taken forward in the next year. At the moment, I'm also currently trying to sort of streamline their manifestos ahead of the local government budget settlements, which will be happening again in February, and that's a really difficult task because every area is different. A Wednesday is really the only day that I'm in the office, so that I get that time to sit down and work through the written paperwork and the manifestos. Other days when I'm in work, I'm usually sort of out and about at councils all over the country. I normally finish work around 6 p.m, and by that point I'm definitely too tired to walk back to Queen Street Station, so I get the train from Charing Cross back to Queen Street and then get my train back to Croy Station. My husband usually picks me up at the station because he's in by that time, and I'll come home, have a quick dinner if it's been a long day at work, usually something healthy like a salad, or try to, but if nothing's been made for me coming in, I'll just have some toast. And then I try to walk around Broadwood Loch with my girls most nights to try and get a bit of exercise. So I have to get them ready, get them in the buggy, and we'll do that, and we take the dog as well. Usually by that point it's maybe about 8 o'clock, so I put both the girls in the baths together, get them out, get their jammies on, put them to bed, and by that point I'm ready for my own bed. So I usually make a cup of tea, go to bed and read a book, and sometimes if I have the energy for it, have a conversation with my husband, but that doesn't happen very often. And my bedtime's usually around about 10 p.m.
Hi there, so my name is Laura Henderson and I am 36 years old. And a typical day for me would essentially start around about 5:30 in the morning. That's when I will naturally wake up. It's not the best of sleeps that I'll have. I tend to have quite bad nightmares, and I have restless leg syndrome where I don't sleep particularly well. So I will wake up around 5:30, get up, have a cup of coffee, sit in my living room, possibly read a wee bit of whatever book I'm reading, and then I'll go get showered, ready, and I will then get ready for work. In terms of work, I work in a company which we do debt collection. The debt collection can be quite a tedious job, not the nicest of jobs. We do outbound and inbound calling. The outbound calling gets a lot of abuse, and you do tend to have a lot of people shout at you. So it's difficult to keep your spirits high, however, you have to do it. It's very rewarding when you do finally speak with someone who does feel that you've been able to help them and get them resolved with whatever issues they've got. And unfortunately, typically I will take at least 2 to 3 suicide calls a day. So that can be quite challenging and quite difficult on the brain because you are empathetic and you want to help the person, but at the end of the day you just don't know what they're going to say next. So I will typically have a 15-minute break in the morning and a half-hour lunch. Break wise, I just like to get outside to clear my head, and for lunch I'll just read my book. I get a break in the afternoon and I work shifts, so I can either finish early or I can finish around about 8 o'clock at night, just depends. Occasionally work Saturdays, and again that's only for 4 hours. Once I'm home, I tend to just get the train back from city centre, and it's only 4 stops in the train. I then come in, will tidy up the house a bit, make some dinner, and pretty boring for dinner wise, tend to like mostly vegetarian food. Once I've had my dinner, I'll tidy up and clear, and don't really watch much TV, so I'll either read or listen to some music, or go out for a walk. And once I've done that, I get ready for the next day, look at my clothes, iron what I'm going to wear, pack my bag, check if my book's finished, if I need to read another one, and at that point I will then just sit down, have a chat with my boyfriend, find out what's been happening, maybe meet up with some friends occasionally, and it's then the arduous task of going to bed and trying to get to sleep, but not being able to sleep because I either got really bad leg cramps, or if I do go to sleep I wake up in the middle of the night with nightmares, and then convince myself that I need to go back to sleep because I have to get up early in the morning to start the day again and be fresh. So bedtime for me, I would say it's round about maybe 1 o'clock, 1:30 in the morning. So that's my day.
Wake up in the morning roughly about 7:20 to 7:30 with a cup of coffee beside my bed by my wife, which is really good. After that, shower, get the clothes ready and leave for work around about 8 o'clock. Doesn't take me long to get to work, but recently I've been taking my wife into hers and then getting to mine about 8:30. And then from that, to start my day, I have a breakfast club in work where young people come along and we make them pancakes and give them fruit and a cup of juice to start their day, which is class, to be fair. It's actually really enjoyable. And then from that, my day will kick off. Registration will be the pancake club, as we call it, and then from that my day will kick off. Every day is different. Every single day that I'm in work, there's no 2 days the same. Depending on my timetable, if I've got a group or if I've got meetings or if I've got events, it's totally different, but it's really enjoyable. As the day goes on, interval time, I kind of spend it with the same people, like-minded people who are quite positive. We've actually got a me group called the Life Changers, which is quite fun as well to be part of. A lot of the time I spend with senior students, helping them with CVs, mock interviews, how to apply for jobs, find apprenticeships and opportunities, again, which is great. Also working with younger students, S3s, just about trying to raise their aspirations and help them with skills and qualities to get into the world of work. And then at lunchtime, again, tend to go to the canteen, or my wife will make me lunch, which is good. The canteen food's no bad. Get fish and chips on a Friday, which is probably my favourite. Don't know if that makes any sense to you, but it does to me. After school, if I'm not picking Jen up, I tend to go for a run. I've actually signed up for a triathlon in August, so it's been running, cycling and swimming, not all at the same time, but when I can. And then from that, get Jen from work, we'll come home, tend to have dinner together, depending on my schedule, if it's football coaching or golf, if I'm allowed to go. I also coach for a football team in the Elite Academy in Scotland, so that's 3 nights a week and the weekend. So when I go there, I'll sometimes go straight from work if it's a Friday, if it's a Monday or Wednesday it's later in the evening, and I'll go and take football sessions for young professionals. Standards pretty high, well, really high, expectations are high, we also have fun as well, which is important. And after that I'll come home and probably have a cup of tea or a cup of juice and try and relax. And in terms of relaxing, that's just lying on the couch, like chilling out. Sometimes not even watching TV, just sitting, listening to music or with the TV on in the background. But again, not two days are the same. Also training to be a life coach at the minute. Me and my friend have got an organisation where we do seminars. It's quite funny because I'm stretching my own comfort zone now because I'm quite nervous. So it's interesting. So I do that, self-development, studying. Sometimes maybe once a week, twice a week I'll do the coursework and try and read. Not as often as I should, but I'm giving it a go. And then the weekends, football, Saturday morning with my team. Take the team, play across Scotland at football stadiums, which is class. And sometimes try and go for a beer if I'm not getting dragged about the shops, and fit in some golf as well. So in terms of my routines, start the day early. I try and get up for before 7:30 and try and be in bed for 10:30 and try and listen to some meditation music that kind of recharges your battery and turns your brain off for that overthinking part. So.
Hi, I'm Laura. I'm 41 and I'm going to give you a wee insight into my daily routine. So this is a working day. I'm an optical assistant and my day kicks off with the alarm going off at 7:15. When the alarm goes off, I lie and try and get every last minute in my bed before I have to get up and start the day. So generally I get up about 10 minutes after the alarm goes off. Say a quick hello to Zara because she's very difficult to get up in the morning. So I give her a wee hello to try and get her up and then go and get showered and everything. Get her stuff all laid out for her getting out of the shower. After I get out of the shower, I go and get Zara, try and wake her up again. This can take quite a while sometimes in the mornings because she's a wee bit of a zombie. Eventually she'll get up. She'll start to get dressed, I'll get myself sorted. Zara will go down, set the table, Bella finish off up the stairs and I'll go down and make the breakfast for us and we'll sit and have a wee chat about the day ahead and just have a wee chat about before we say goodbye to each other, before she goes to school and before I go to work. So then I get set off to go to work. I usually leave here about back 8. My stepdad Alan comes up and he'll sit with Zara for a wee while and then he'll take her to school for me. So once I get the wee okay that she's dropped to school, that's when my day begins. So I go into work, I work in Baylisons and an opticians and every day it starts off, the lab's brought back all the patients' glasses. I've got to sort them out, make sure they're all the right prescriptions in them for the patients getting them. I call the patients just to let them know that their jobs have arrived and then start processing other jobs. I work with 2 girls, they're really, really nice girls. I've only joined this practice about 4 months ago, so they're dead helpful towards me and really friendly and make my job quite easy. Day to day, patients will come in. I do quite a lot of pre-testing for the opticians. So, for example, they'll have to get checks done to check their peripheral vision to make sure that their sights, they're not missing anything else in their blind spot. So I do quite a lot of their tests. I also take photographs of behind the patient's eyes just to make sure the health of their eyes are great, and I pass it on to the optician for them to check. So it's quite a busy day here. It's a very busy practice. Patients in and out all day long. Everybody I work with is great, so it's a good wee day. I get an hour's lunch break and there's not really much of a staff room. It's quite a wee cupboard, so I tend to go out rain, hail or shine just to get away from work for a wee hour. Sometimes my lunch break I'll just go for a wander or I'll FaceTime my brother or sister and get a blether with them and I catch up. And then I go back to work and it's generally the day's away from you because it's a really quick day. So I finished my job at 5:30 and when I finish, generally Zara's got a wee club on after school, so I don't get to see her a wee bit later. So when I finish at 5:30, Paul generally comes up to the house and if it's a nice night, we'll go for a wee run or a walk depending on how energetic we're feeling. we'll come back and get a wee quick bite to eat, get some dinner, and then both of us will go down and collect Sarah from our wee club, and then she'll come up the road, she'll have some supper, and we'll all read our wee storybook together, and then that'll be her off up to her bed. Then generally me and Paul just sit and get a blether, maybe try and watch some documentary or something, but we always end up blethering through everything, so we never really watch anything. Then after that, generally up to our bed, 10:30, and that's it. That's when my day ends. 10:30, I like to be in my bed sleeping.
My name's Tamsin Amintare Collins and I'm 27 years old. My daily routine starts probably around 8:30 when I wake up. I have quite late starts, but really that fluctuates depending day to day what the job is going to be. Sometimes I am office based and sometimes I'm on location. I work as an assistant producer at one company at the moment, and I've just come off a job about dancing children. And my daily routine, so I might wake up around 8:30, go for a shower, have some breakfast, get dressed, and I usually walk to work because it's really not that far. Everything in Glasgow is really, close together. I previously lived in London for the last 10 years, so everything was, an hour away by public transport, so it's really quite novel for me to be able to walk to work and have that healthy routine, travelling that way instead, on my own two legs. What happens when I get to work, again, varies from day to day. So after my 25-minute walk into town, I usually do some setting up in the office, so I'm responsible for setting up shoots for my shooting team, which means calling around the contributors that we're working with, setting up times, locations, booking people in, confirming that we're going to be shooting with them, looking at the stories and question writing for interviews. And then usually it might be that day or it might be the day after, we would be going on that shoot with my producer director, and it would usually just be the two of us or the two of us and a runner if it was a larger location shoot or a large scale event. When we're there on location, I'm usually asking the interview questions while my producer director is camera operating, and I'm responsible for following the story, helping contributors be at ease in the room, helping set up the room or the background, and the lighting. So we carry along lighting panels and tripods with us and sticks, lighting stands. And after that, we generally shoot several sequences during the day for that particular story. And each story probably takes between 4 and 5 days of shooting to complete. So that's been my previous production. I'm continuing with that one, and then going on to another one. So I would say with being a freelancer in the television industry is quite an insecure and risky type job. You never know what you're going to do next. So you pick up the next job and it could be completely different from the last, or you might have a completely different role. So yeah, it's pretty exciting, very varied, and I really enjoy it. And you get to meet all kinds of people and go to all kinds of different places as well. So it's fantastic. I love it. I would say so. My finishing time for work varies greatly across the day as well. I mean, I've gotten back at 1 a.m. before, or I've come back at around 6:30 if it's been an office setting up shoot day. So that really depends as well. If I have some time in the evening, I like to relax with my boyfriend Alex. Usually here, usually we're both exhausted because he works in TV as well, but in drama. So we like to watch RuPaul's Drag Race, which is pretty fascinating when you get into it. I mean, the people on there have incredible skills, and it's just great fun to watch. It's hilarious. So we do that. We usually like to cook. We love Asian food, so we like last night we made pad thai. and then we probably go to bed about 10:30. Yeah, and wake up for the next day.
I'm Katrina and I'm 29. So my morning will start around about 10 o'clock. I wake up, usually my cat's the one who wakes me up. She's a rescue cat, so she's very needy and lonely, so she'll wake me up, so I'll go through to the living room with her and usually watch Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares. While I get ready and have breakfast, I'll usually just have something simple, a bowl of cereal or something like that. I'll get ready and I go to work, start work at 1:30, and I'll get the train there. It takes me about half an hour, 45 minutes to get there. So get in, start work at 1:30. I work at Radio Clyde, but the show that I work on is a network show, so it goes all across Scotland on 7 stations, which are Clyde 1 in Glasgow, Fourth One in Edinburgh, TFM in Dundee, North Sound in Aberdeen, MFR in Inverness, West FM in Ayrshire, and Radio Borders in the Scottish Borders. So we cover a really big area, and it's so we obviously we need to sound like we know everything that's going on. So to start work, I'll get in, I'll check my emails, and we get emails from all the breakfast presenters, and that's so we can talk about their show, and it makes it sound like, so the presenter of my show is called Callum, and it makes it sound like he knows everything that's going on, and it just adds a kind of real local feel to everything. So that's the main thing I do, kind of highlight anything important that's happened so I can talk about it. And then I'll look at the music we're playing and I'll find information on each of the artists. Any, if anything big's happening, if they're playing a gig soon or something like that that's local, that would be perfect. If not, just any kind of gossip, something that they've tweeted, just anything like that, just to give some info about them. I'll also, if there's topical stuff, I'll look through the news and we'll find some stuff to talk about. It's a kind of sense of day, as we call it. So at the start of the week, the driving licence changed and learner drivers could go on the motorway, so we kind of did a thing on that. So that's kind of an example of the sense of day topics that we'll have. So we'll chat through that. That takes up quite a big part of the day. I'll chat through it with the presenter as well, and then I usually go for my lunch or my dinner around about 5 o'clock. And I'll just I can have anything at McDonald's, there's now Nando's, which is nice, pizza, or if I'm being kind of healthy, I'll go to Asda, but I end up eating a ready meal anyway, so it's probably not much better for me. Get back to work. I don't often take the full hour, usually I just grab something and come back and eat at my desk. And then it's more or less time for the show. And my job while the show's on is just to make sure the presenter knows what he's talking about and to make sure we don't go off air and there's no silences or anything like that. And that's pretty much it. I get a lift home. I'm home around about 10:30. I tend not to eat when I get home because I don't stay up that much later before going to bed. I'll watch Love Island since that's on just now and I'm obsessed with it, and then I tend to go to bed about midnight or 1 o'clock, and that's about it.
Yes, what do you mean? Yes.
I would say that I am as happy as I could be reasonably expected to be at this point in time. I don't know that anyone is ever perfectly happy. I think if they've achieved that, they're probably a Tibetan monk on a mountain somewhere who has left their body long behind. But in general, yes, I would say I'm very happy. I'm at a great uni, I've got good friends, and all things considered, life's going pretty well.
Yes, I would say I'm a happy person overall. The first few weeks was a bit difficult because it was you know, coming from Sweden to Scotland, which obviously a big change. At 19, it's a lot to take in. The change, you know, if you need some emotional support, there's not really someone there in the beginning to give you that unless you call them, but it's not the same thing. Although my brother's girlfriend's dad told me that it takes, scientifically, they said it takes 6 weeks, that when you leave home, it takes 6 weeks to get used to where you are. And literally on the 6th week, I think I made like the most amount of friends, and I was just really, really happy. And I didn't feel so homesick anymore. And that's when I knew that university life had started. And also recently I've also been hanging out with a bunch of new groups, because we have a bunch of different groups, you know. Maybe a group I party with, maybe a group I go camping with. So yeah, there's a lot of different kinds of friends that you can hang out with, and I'm loving every moment of it, yeah. I think university is my natural habitat.
Right now? Yeah.
Am I happy? Sometimes. There's been a big upset in my life which has made me have to make readjustments, and there are parts of these readjustments that don't make me happy, but most of the time I'm happy or content happy. Well, I don't know if that answers your question.
Generally, yes, I'm quite happy, yeah. I enjoy my work, I have a good social life at home and things like that, you know. I've got on well with my family, my brothers and my mum and dad and everything, so yeah, I mean, not everything's perfect, but nothing ever really is, so I'm quite happy, I would say.
Yes, I am, very. I like my wee life, quite happy with my fiancé and my family and going to work and doing my average things. Yeah.
At present, I would say I am neutral, coasting at the moment. I find my job unsatisfactory, but it pays well. I live a relatively decent life. I'm not wanting of anything. The only thing I really want is sort of stimulation and generally, I wouldn't say entertainment, but purpose in my life. I would say I very much lack that. But in terms of my basic needs, they are sufficiently covered. So, in between.
Yes, I think I am.
Yes, I'm happy, content, yeah.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Yes.
Yes, I am happy, or trying my best to be very happy.
Yes.
Yes, exceedingly.
Yes, very much so.
Yes.
Yes, I'm happy, yeah. Yep.
Yeah. I like my job. I think it's quite rewarding.
Very happy.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yes, I'm very happy. I'm a happy person.
Yes. In general, in life, yes.
Yes and no. I would say yes, if I'm being very honest. I take some medication and stuff for antidepressants, so that would make me say no, but they make me happy, so I would say yes. If that's not too much information.